I'm Alex Carter, and this is the story of how I bet everything on a dream that seemed impossible, and how it nearly broke me before it made me. I wasn't always the man sitting here today, steering companies that changed the world. Once, I was just a kid from a small town in Yorkshire, obsessed with rockets, computers, and the idea that the future could be better, if only someone dared to build it. Growing up, I was the eldest of three. My dad was an engineer, and my mum had been a model before she turned to nutrition. I was the shortest, often the quiet one, buried in books and comics, because being a brainy kid wasn't exactly a ticket to popularity. Imagine a lanky boy with thick glasses, always scribbling down ideas about space travel and electric cars, while the other kids chased footballs. They called me a smart aleck, but I preferred that to being ordinary. When I was 10, a school aptitude test by a local tech company, think of it as the IBM of the UK, showed I had one of the highest scores they'd ever seen. I was programming games before most of my mates could tie their shoelaces properly. I remember writing a space shooter game called Star Blaster and figuring out how to sell it online when I was just 12. That was my first taste of what it meant to take an idea and turn it into something real. But life wasn't all starry-eyed dreams. Back home, the world felt small and confining, especially with looming national service and a government I didn't believe in. So, with barely a word to my parents, I packed my bags for Canada, chasing the bright lights and bigger dreams of North America. My first days were chaotic. I called my brother from a Greyhound bus, asking, "So, now what?" I took odd jobs across the country, from flipping burgers in Winnipeg to coding websites for local businesses in Vancouver. College was a blur. I rarely went to lectures, but devoured textbooks, learning on my own terms. The real education was in the hustle, the late nights coding, the endless cups of instant coffee, and the thrill of building something from nothing. By my early 20s, my brother and I launched our first company, a digital city guide that combined maps, business listings, and news. We called it Ziptown. It was the late 90s, and the internet was still a wild frontier. Local newspapers thought we were crazy, even laughed when we said we'd replace the yellow pages. But soon, big media companies came knocking, and in 1999, we sold Ziptown for over $200 million. At 28, I had more money than most could dream of. Instead of retiring to a yacht in the Mediterranean, I bought a McLaren F1, the fastest car on the planet at the time, and drove it like I stole it. The police had a few choice words for me, but honestly, I was too busy dreaming bigger. Selling Ziptown was just the start. I dove headfirst into my next venture, creating a new kind of online money transfer system. Back then, sending money was a nightmare. Checks in the post, waiting weeks for payments. My new company, which later became known as PayLink, aimed to change that. After merging with a rival, we built a platform that made online payments easy and fast. eBay bought us in 2002 for $1.2 billion, and I walked away with $150 million, 30 years old, and filthy rich. But money wasn't my goal. I wanted to reach for the stars, literally. I was fascinated by space travel and frustrated that NASA's plans to explore Mars felt stuck in the past. So, in 2002, I launched Orbital X, a private space company funded almost entirely by me. People thought I was mad. A Yorkshire lad with a rocket company? You must be joking. I spent months negotiating in Moscow, trying to buy used missiles, without the warheads, obviously. The trick wasn't getting to space, it was getting there cheaply. I taught myself rocket science by reading everything I could find, and slowly we built the Falcon 1, the first privately funded rocket to reach orbit. But it almost didn't happen. The first 3 launches failed spectacularly, burning through my savings and morale. I had maybe a week's worth of cash left when the 4th launch finally soared. While Orbital X was scraping the sky, I was also chasing a cleaner world back on Earth. At a festival in the Nevada desert, I met my cousins, who were trying to start a solar energy company. I handed them a check and said, "Go on, make this your company. I'll be chairman." That company, SolarBright, grew fast, installing panels across the U.S. and challenging the fossil fuel status quo. But the real challenge was cars. In 2004, I poured $5 million into a startup called Velocity Motors, which aimed to make electric cars sexy, not just eco-friendly but desirable. The idea was simple. Start with a high-end sports car to turn heads, then make more affordable models. Our first car, the Velocity Roadster, was sleek, fast, and packed with tech. Celebrities loved it, but the auto industry sneered. By 2007, Velocity was bleeding money. We were months from bankruptcy. I had to make a choice, invest everything I had left or watch it die. I bet the farm and doubled down. The board was skeptical, but my stubborn confidence turned the tide. That same year, I flew to Germany to convince an old-school car giant, Steinberg Motors, the company that practically invented the car, to partner with us. They weren't impressed until we retrofitted one of their tiny city cars with our electric motor in under a month. It was a tight squeeze, like fitting a rocket engine into a shoebox, but we pulled it off. Back home, we hired a top designer to reimagine our next model, the Velocity S. The designer, Henry Fisk, seemed perfect, but it turned out he was secretly working on a rival electric car. When we found out, we sued. The legal fight was messy, but it showed just how high the stakes were. Meanwhile, my personal life was unraveling. After 8 years of marriage and 5 kids, my wife and I split. The pressure was immense, and some days I felt like I was on the edge of a breakdown. Then came the darkest moment. Orbital X's first rockets failed, Velocity Motors was nearly bankrupt, and SolarBright's bank pulled out. We had maybe a week's cash left, and the world was plunging into the worst recession in decades. I remember pacing my kitchen at 3 a.m., thinking, if this all fails, what have I done? But just when it seemed like the end, a British actress named Lily came into my life. She didn't know about my companies or my dreams. She just saw a man desperate but determined. We married in 2010, and suddenly things started to look up. Orbital X's 4th rocket launch succeeded, and NASA awarded us a $2 billion contract. Tesla, the new name for Velocity Motors, was still struggling, but I poured my last reserves into it. I promised the world that our Model S would be worth every penny, guaranteeing its value with my own assets, no matter what. The gamble paid off. Tesla's sleek electric sedans began rolling off the line. SolarBright grew into the largest solar provider in the U.S., and Orbital X reached for Mars. But the story isn't over. There's a shadow lurking. Someone who wants to see Tesla fail, a secret about the next big project that could change everything, or destroy it all. And as I look out over the horizon, I know one thing for certain. The greatest adventure is still ahead. The morning I first stepped into the Tesla factory in Fremont, California, the air was thick with the scent of fresh paint, metal, and a faint trace of burnt rubber. It wasn't the glamorous scene you'd imagine for a company destined to change the world. It was more like a war zone in slow motion. The assembly lines were half-built, workers moved with a nervous urgency, and every machine seemed to groan under the weight of expectation. I was wearing my usual uniform, jeans, a simple black shirt, and my signature worn leather jacket. Nothing flashy, just the clothes of a man who'd rather be under the hood than in a boardroom. But I made sure to bring my lucky watch, the one my dad gave me when I left Yorkshire. It was a reminder that even the biggest dreams start with small, steady ticks forward. Walking through the factory floor, I saw the bodies of the Model S sedans in various stages, some gleaming like polished jewels, others looking like awkward metal skeletons. The engineers wore grease-streaked jumpsuits, their faces a mix of exhaustion and fierce determination. Among them was Sarah, our lead battery engineer, whose fiery red hair was always pulled back into a tight ponytail, strands escaping to frame a face that was beautiful but fierce, like a warrior queen battling the kingdom of fossil fuels. She wore steel-toed boots and a fitted navy blue shirt, rolled up at the sleeves to reveal a tattoo of a lightning bolt snaking down her forearm. There was a quiet sensuality in the way she moved, confident, purposeful, and unafraid. "Alex," she said without looking up from a battery pack she was assembling, "if this pack doesn't hold, we're all toast." I smiled, trying to lighten the tension. "No pressure, then. Just the future of clean energy resting on your shoulders." She smirked. "I work better under pressure. Besides, if this fails, I'm blaming you." The truth was, I felt the weight, too. The factory was burning through money faster than we could build cars, and every delay was a nail in Tesla's coffin. We'd taken over the old Toyota plant, a sprawling complex with rusty corners and ghosts of better days. It was ironic. A place that once churned out gas-guzzling cars was now the birthplace of something revolutionary. That day, I spent hours in meetings, pacing the conference room with a handful of investors whose smiles never quite reached their eyes. They wanted assurances, guarantees, something I couldn't always promise. My gamble was enormous. I was putting every penny I had into Tesla, knowing that if we failed, I'd lose everything. Later, as the sun dipped below the San Francisco Bay, I found myself alone on the factory roof. The cool breeze ruffled my hair, and the city lights twinkled like distant stars. I pulled out my phone and called Lily. "Hey," she answered, her voice soft but steady. "I needed to hear your voice," I admitted. "It's been a hell of a day." "Tell me about it," she said, laughing lightly. "You sound like you're about to build a rocket or something." "Funny you say that," I replied, "because right now I'm juggling rockets, electric cars, and a solar empire, and none of it's guaranteed to survive the night." She was quiet for a moment. "You're stubborn," she said finally, "but that's why you'll get through it." I smiled, the tension easing just a bit. "I hope you're right." Back inside, the factory lights flickered as a warning, power surges from overworked systems. The Model S chassis gleamed under the harsh fluorescent bulbs, promising speed, style, and a cleaner future. But beneath the steel lay the undeniable truth. We were fighting not just physics and engineering challenges, but the doubts of an entire industry. As I turned to leave, Sarah caught my arm. "You know," she said, eyes sparkling, "if we pull this off, we'll be the ones laughing last." I squeezed her hand. "Then let's make sure they remember our laugh." But just as hope flickered, my phone buzzed with a message that made my blood run cold. "Urgent. Need to talk. Investor meeting compromised. Possible sabotage." The factory that night felt colder, darker, and I knew the real battle was only just beginning. That message hit me like a thunderclap in the middle of an otherwise routine evening. Sabotage. Who the hell would want to take down Tesla? And why? I stared at the glowing screen in my hand, the words burning into my mind as if warning me that the storm I'd been braving was about to become a hurricane. I grabbed my leather jacket, threw it on, and bolted out of the office, my mind racing faster than the engines we were trying to build. The factory floor was eerily quiet now, shadows stretching long under the dim emergency lights. Workers had gone home, but a few night shift technicians were still tinkering, their faces pale and anxious. I found Sarah leaning over a workbench, her red hair messier than usual, dirt smudged across her cheek. She looked up as I approached, eyes sharp and alert. "Sabotage," I repeated. "What do you know?" Her jaw tightened. "Last week, some of the battery cells started failing in testing. At first, we thought it was a supplier issue, but the data doesn't add up. Someone's been messing with the specs, changing tolerances, swapping parts. It's subtle, but deadly. My stomach twisted. This wasn't just a glitch. It was an attack designed to cripple us quietly, to make the Model S unreliable before it even hit the streets. Whoever was behind it knew exactly where to strike. I ran my hand through my hair, trying to steady the storm inside my head. "Do you have any suspects?" She shook her head. "Not yet. But whoever it is, they've got access. Too much access." I thought about Steinberg Motors, the old guard car giant we'd been battling for years. The executives who'd laughed at our electric dreams. Or maybe one of the suppliers we'd recently dropped for cutting corners. Corporate espionage wasn't just in spy novels. It was real. And it was personal. I pulled out my phone and dialed my security chief, Marcus. "Get me all access logs for the battery assembly line, every visitor, every employee who's been near those cells in the last month. I want names, times, everything." "On it," Marcus said. "We'll find whoever's playing dirty." As we talked, my mind drifted to Lily. She was the calm in my chaos, the one person who kept me grounded when the world threatened to pull me under. I texted her a quick message. "I'm going to need you to be my rock." Minutes later, she called. "Alex, you sound on edge. What's going on?" I hesitated, then spilled the news. "Someone's trying to take us down from the inside. If this gets out, it could kill Tesla before we even get off the ground." She was silent for a moment, then said, "Then we fight. You're not alone in this." The next day, the factory buzzed with tension. I made my way to the design studio, where the new Model S was coming to life under the hands of our team. The sleek curves of the prototype gleamed under the soft lights, an elegant silhouette that promised to shatter stereotypes about electric cars. Emma, our lead designer, caught my eye. She wore a fitted white blouse tucked into high-waisted black trousers, her dark hair cascading over one shoulder. There was a spark in her eyes, a mix of determination and quiet defiance. "We're not going to let some corporate saboteur ruin this," she said, her voice steady. "Agreed," I replied, "but we need to be 2 steps ahead." Later that afternoon, the investor meeting began, but the mood was different. The usual polite smiles were replaced by guarded glances. I opened with honesty, the sabotage, the challenges, the stakes. "I'm personally guaranteeing Tesla's survival," I declared, locking eyes with each person in the room. "I'm putting every penny I have on the line because I believe in this company, in this vision. If that's not enough to convince you, then I don't know what is." There was a pause, then slowly nods of approval. Some investors even smiled, a flicker of faith in a sea of doubt. But just as relief began to settle, my phone buzzed again. Another message, this time from an unknown number. "You're playing a dangerous game, Alex. Walk away while you still can." I looked up, meeting the eyes of everyone in the room. The stakes had never been higher. The battle for Tesla wasn't just about cars or technology anymore. It was about survival, trust, and the price of chasing a dream. And somewhere in the shadows, the enemy was watching, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The warning chilled me to the bone, but I wasn't about to back down. If anything, it fueled the fire burning inside me. I locked my phone and shoved it into my pocket, turning back to the investors with a steely gaze. "This company isn't just about making electric cars," I said, voice low but firm. "It's about changing the future. And I'm not walking away. Not now, not ever." The room fell silent, then a few hesitant claps broke out. It wasn't a victory, but it was enough to keep the door open. After the meeting, I retreated to my office, where the late afternoon sunlight spilled across a cluttered desk, piled high with blueprints and half-empty coffee cups. I sank into my chair, rubbing my temples. The pressure was relentless, the weight of it pressing down like a boulder. A knock at the door jolted me. Sarah stepped in, her expression serious but resolute. "We found something." I stood, heart pounding. "What?" She handed me a tablet loaded with security footage. "Look here." On the screen, a shadowy figure slipped into the battery assembly area late at night, moving with practiced stealth. The person wore a hooded jacket, gloves, and a mask that concealed most of their face. But there, just for a second, they brushed past a security badge scanner, and the name popped up: Daniel Price. Daniel was one of our senior engineers, smart, reliable, and until now, trusted. I felt a punch to the gut. How could someone so close betray us? I dialed Marcus immediately. "Get me everything on Daniel. Background checks, recent activities, financials, and lock down his access. No one else gets near him until we figure this out." As we worked, I couldn't shake the feeling that the sabotage was just the tip of the iceberg. Someone inside Tesla was trying to sabotage not just our cars, but our entire mission. That evening, Lily met me at a quiet pub in San Francisco, an old brick building with polished wooden floors and dim amber lighting that softened the world outside. She wore a deep green dress that hugged her curves just right, paired with elegant black heels. Her dark curls framed a face that was both beautiful and fierce, a perfect blend of warmth and strength. She slid into the booth across from me, reaching out to take my hand. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." I smiled, squeezing her hand. "Sometimes I wonder if I am." She leaned closer, voice teasing. "Well, if you're going to take on the auto industry, private spaceflight, and solar power all at once, you better get used to it." Her laughter was a balm, and for a moment the chaos faded away. But as we left the pub, my phone buzzed again. A new email from an anonymous sender. The subject line read, "Meet me if you want answers." The message contained coordinates and a time. No name, no explanation. I looked at Lily, who raised an eyebrow. "You know you're going to go, right?" I nodded. "Because if someone's trying to take us down, I need to find out who and why." The night air was crisp as I drove to the location, a deserted warehouse on the outskirts of Oakland. Shadows danced in the weak glow of street lamps, and every creak and rustle set my nerves on edge. Inside, a figure stepped forward from the darkness. Tall, dressed in a sharp black coat, with piercing blue eyes that seemed to look right through me. "Alex Carter," the stranger said, voice low and steady. "I've been expecting you." The game was no longer about cars or rockets. It was about secrets, lies, and a conspiracy that went deeper than I ever imagined. And as the warehouse door slammed shut behind me, I knew there was no turning back. The stranger's eyes never wavered as he stepped closer, the dim light casting sharp shadows across his angular face. He reached into his coat and pulled out a slim envelope, sliding it across the dusty floor toward me. The warehouse smelled of oil and old secrets, the silence punctuated only by the distant hum of the city. I bent down and picked up the envelope, my fingers trembling slightly. Inside was a single photograph, grainy but unmistakable. It showed Daniel Price meeting with a man I recognized instantly. Victor Langley, the CEO of Steinberg Motors, the very company that had sneered at Tesla's ambitions from day one. "So, it's true," I said, voice tight. "They're working together." The stranger nodded. "And it goes further than that. They're planning to sabotage your launch, discredit Tesla, and buy it up for a fraction of its worth once it collapses." "Why tell me this?" I asked, suspicion prickling at my skin. "Because not everyone wants Tesla to die," he replied. "There are people inside Steinberg who see your vision as a threat and a challenge. You have allies, but they're hidden in the shadows. You'll need to find them before it's too late." Before I could respond, a noise echoed through the warehouse, a metallic clang, sharp and sudden. The stranger's eyes flicked toward the sound, his posture shifting like a coiled spring. "Stay here," he commanded, pulling a small baton from his coat. I hesitated, heart pounding, but before I could move, the warehouse doors burst open, flooding the space with harsh white light. Men in suits, faces hard as steel, stormed inside. Chaos erupted. I dove behind a stack of crates as the stranger engaged them, his baton flashing with practiced precision. I could hear shouts, the clash of metal, the pounding of footsteps. My mind raced. This wasn't just corporate sabotage, it was a full-scale assault. When the dust finally settled, the men had retreated, but the warehouse was a mess, overturned crates, shattered glass, and a silence heavy with menace. The stranger approached, breathing hard but unbowed. "You need to be careful, Alex. They're watching." I nodded, gripping the envelope tightly. "Who are you?" He smiled grimly. "Call me Mason. I work in the shadows, just like you." Back at Tesla's headquarters, the atmosphere was electric with tension. I gathered the core team, Sarah, Emma, Marcus, and laid out everything Mason had revealed. The betrayal, the conspiracy, the enemy within. Emma crossed her arms, eyes blazing. "We're not just fighting technology, we're fighting a war." Sarah nodded. "Then we need to tighten security, vet every supplier, every employee. No one gets a free pass." Marcus already had plans. "I'm assembling a task force. We'll track communications, monitor access points, and root out the mole." The hours blurred into days as we worked non-stop. I barely slept, fueled by adrenaline and the weight of responsibility. Every phone call, every email felt like a potential threat. Yet, amid the chaos, the factory hummed with purpose. The Model S was more than a car. It was a symbol of defiance. One evening, as I sat alone in my office, the city lights twinkling beyond the window, Mason appeared silently behind me. "Your enemies are closing in," he said quietly. "But so are your friends." I turned, curiosity piqued. "What do you mean?" He handed me a small data drive. Inside is evidence, proof of Steinberg's plans, names of their collaborators. Use it wisely. Taking the drive, I felt a surge of hope. The fight was far from over, but for the first time, I knew I wasn't alone. As I prepared to dive deeper into the darkness, a message popped up on my phone. A news alert. Tesla's Model S delayed indefinitely due to technical issues. The war for the future had only just begun. The headline hit me like a punch in the gut. Tesla's Model S delayed indefinitely due to technical issues. The words screamed across every news outlet, sending shockwaves through our investors and customers alike. I stared at the glowing screen in my office, the city lights outside flickering like distant warning signals. "Technical issues," I muttered bitterly. "More like sabotage." Sarah stormed in moments later, her fierce green eyes blazing beneath a loose strand of auburn hair. She wore a crisp white shirt, sleeves rolled up to reveal a silver bracelet catching the light. A small rebellion against the sterile factory environment. "They're using every trick in the book, Alex. Media's eating it up. We can't let this break us." I nodded, rubbing the bridge of my nose. "We need a counterattack, fast and hard." That night, I convened an emergency strategy session in the dimly lit war room beneath Tesla's headquarters. Maps, charts, and security footage plastered the walls, illuminated by the glow of laptop screens. Emma paced in front of a digital board displaying public sentiment graphs dipping like a roller coaster. "We have to control the narrative," she said, voice sharp. "If the press smells blood, they'll tear us apart." Marcus tapped rapidly on his keyboard. "I'm tracking social media chatter and planting leaks to expose Steinberg's dirty tactics. But we need concrete proof." I pulled out the data drive Mason had given me, plugging it into the secure terminal. Files flooded the screen, emails, meeting notes, bank transfers, all linking Steinberg executives to clandestine payments aimed at destabilizing Tesla's supply chain. Emma leaned over my shoulder, eyes narrowing. This is gold. We leak this to the right outlets, and the public turns. But the real challenge was getting the evidence to the media without tipping off our enemies. Mason suggested a contact, a seasoned investigative journalist named Claire Dawson, known for exposing corporate corruption. I agreed to meet her, knowing the risks but desperate for allies. The next evening I found Claire at a cozy Soho cafe, the kind with exposed brick walls and a low hum of jazz in the background. She was striking, a sharp bob framing a face both elegant and fierce, dressed in a tailored charcoal blazer over a crimson blouse that hinted at a hidden fire beneath her professional exterior. She listened intently as I laid out the conspiracy, her dark eyes flickering with a mix of skepticism and intrigue. If what you're saying is true, Alex, this could be the biggest story of the decade. But it's dangerous, I warned. They'll come after you too. Claire smiled wryly. I've danced with danger before. Let's just say I know how to handle myself. Back at Tesla, the atmosphere was electric but tense. We ramped up security, doubling background checks and installing new surveillance. Sarah worked around the clock, personally overseeing the battery testing, her hands steady despite exhaustion. One evening I caught her in the lab, silhouetted against the glowing screens. She looked up, eyes meeting mine. This fight's bigger than cars, Alex. It's about who controls the future. I stepped closer, feeling the weight of those words. And we're not giving up. But just as hope flickered, a new threat emerged. An anonymous tip arrived, photos of one of our prototype vehicles, vandalized and left burning in a parking lot outside the factory. The image was brutal. Twisted metal, black smoke curling into the night sky. I clenched my fists, fury boiling beneath the calm. Whoever was behind this wanted to break us, to make us fear. Lily found me pacing the next morning, her hands warm on my shoulders. You can't carry this alone. Her touch grounded me. I know, but sometimes the hardest battles are the ones worth fighting. As Tesla's future hung in the balance, I realized the path ahead would demand everything: courage, sacrifice, and the stubborn refusal to let a dream die. And somewhere deep in the shadows, the puppeteers pulled their strings tighter, ready for the next move. The game was far from over. The smoke from the burning prototype still lingered in my mind as I stepped into the boardroom for what felt like the 100th time that week. The room was colder than usual, the polished mahogany table reflecting the harsh fluorescent lights above. Around it sat the faces of Tesla's board members, some skeptical, others weary, all questioning whether this dream was worth the price. I wore my usual battle-worn jeans and a crisp black shirt, sleeves rolled up just enough to reveal the scars earned from countless late nights and near breakdowns. The tension in the room was thick, but I refused to show any cracks. We can't let fear dictate our future, I said firmly, locking eyes with each person. We're standing at the edge of something revolutionary. Yes, there are forces trying to pull us down, but that only means we're on the right path. One of the older members, Mr. Whitaker, adjusted his glasses and leaned forward. Alex, with due respect, the financials are bleeding. Our cash reserves are dwindling, and the delays have investors nervous. We need a plan that guarantees returns. Now. I took a breath, steadying myself. The Model S will redefine the automobile, but to get there we need to push harder, be smarter. I'm proposing a partnership with Vanguard Motors. A murmur rippled through the room. Vanguard was a European automaker with a reputation for precision engineering, but little appetite for risk. Why Vanguard? Asked another board member, Ms. Reynolds, sharp as ever in her tailored navy suit. Because they have the factories, the expertise, and a shared vision for sustainability, I explained. They're eager to innovate, and with their resources we can accelerate production and cut costs. Sarah, standing quietly at the back, nodded. It's our best shot. The vote was close, but ultimately in favor. The deal was struck, and suddenly Tesla had a lifeline. Meanwhile, Mason's intelligence work uncovered a disturbing revelation. Steinberg Motors wasn't just sabotaging Tesla. They were colluding with foreign investors looking to monopolize the electric vehicle market. The implications were staggering. One rainy night, Mason and I met with a government official in a dimly lit London pub. The official, a stern man named Agent Collins, warned us that exposing the conspiracy could ignite a political firestorm. "Are you prepared for the fallout?" he asked, voice low. "We don't have a choice," I replied. "The future depends on it." Back in California, the partnership with Vanguard began to bear fruit. Engineers from both companies worked side by side, bridging cultures and ideas. Emma thrived in this environment, her designs evolving into sleek, aerodynamic masterpieces. She often wore a fitted leather jacket that contrasted with her delicate silver necklace, a subtle nod to rebellion and elegance. One afternoon, as I toured the new production line, I caught sight of Daniel Price. He looked gaunt, eyes haunted but determined. He approached me quietly. "Alex," he said, voice strained, "I want to help. I never wanted to hurt Tesla. I was under pressure, threats I couldn't ignore." I studied him, weighing the truth in his confession. "Then prove it. Help us stop Steinberg for good." His nod was resolute. Just as momentum seemed to shift in our favor, disaster struck again. A cyber attack crippled Tesla's network, freezing production schedules and compromising sensitive data. The timing was too precise to be a coincidence. Sarah's team worked feverishly to contain the breach, her usual confidence shaken but unbroken. "They're organized," she admitted. "This is war." Late one night, as I reviewed damage reports, Lily found me staring blankly at the screen. She slipped an arm around my waist, her presence a soothing anchor. "Remember why you started this," she whispered. "For the future, for the kids who deserve better." Her words reignited the fire within me. I stood, determination hardening my voice. "We're not just building cars or rockets, we're building a legacy." Outside, the rain poured down, washing the city clean. Inside, a storm was raging, a battle not just for Tesla's survival, but for the soul of innovation itself. And as the shadows lengthened, I knew one thing for certain. The fight was far from over. But somewhere, hidden behind layers of power and greed, a new player watched and waited, ready to make their move. The cyber attack was a wake-up call that Tesla's enemies were growing bolder and smarter. Our tech team, led by Marcus, worked around the clock in a secure windowless room they dubbed the Fortress. The hum of servers and the clatter of keyboards formed a relentless soundtrack to our fight for survival. Marcus was a tall, lean man with sharp features, softened by a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow. Today he wore a faded band t-shirt under an open flannel shirt, a stark contrast to the sterile environment around him. Yet, beneath the casual exterior was a mind as precise and unyielding as the code he wrote. "Alex," he said without looking up, "we traced the attack back to a group linked with Steinberg's offshore accounts. They're using state-of-the-art malware, clean, efficient, and designed to disappear without a trace." I ran a hand through my hair, frustration mounting. "How long until they strike again?" Marcus shrugged. "Could be minutes, could be days. They're testing us, probing for weaknesses." Meanwhile, Emma was leading the design team in finalizing the Model S. The car had evolved into a breathtaking machine, sleek curves, a low, aggressive stance, and an interior that blended luxury with futuristic minimalism. Emma herself was a study in contrasts, always impeccably dressed, today in a deep burgundy blouse paired with tailored black trousers, yet her hands bore the faint smudges of grease from long hours in the workshop. One afternoon, she caught me watching her as she sketched new concepts. "Don't just admire," she teased. "Help me make it better." I grinned. I'm more of a dream big and let you handle the details kind of guy. She laughed, the sound lightening the heavy air. Well, dream big then. But dreams alone wouldn't save us. The next day, a surprise visitor arrived, Liam Harper, a rising star in the renewable energy sector and CEO of GreenGrid, a company specializing in smart battery technology. Liam was tall, with sandy hair and a boyish charm that belied his sharp business acumen. He wore a tailored navy suit that seemed at odds with his easygoing smile. "I've been following Tesla's fight," he said, shaking my hand firmly. "I want to offer GreenGrid's support. Our battery tech could give your cars an edge." It was the kind of partnership we needed. Cutting-edge innovation combined with shared vision. I agreed immediately. But just as we began integrating GreenGrid's technology, an unexpected twist surfaced. Daniel Price disappeared. No calls, no messages, no trace. It was as if he'd vanished into thin air. Sarah was furious. He was our best chance at inside intel. If Steinberg got to him, I clenched my jaw. We'll find him, and when we do, we'll make sure they regret ever crossing us. That night, Lily and I attended a gala hosted by Silicon Valley's elite. The venue was a grand ballroom with crystal chandeliers casting shimmering light over polished floors. She wore an elegant sapphire gown that hugged her figure, her dark hair cascading in soft waves. I, in a tailored black tuxedo, felt like a man caught between two worlds, the high society we were entering and the battles we fought behind closed doors. As we mingled, whispers followed us. Tesla's story was becoming legend, but so was the danger. Suddenly, a man approached, a striking figure with silver hair and piercing gray eyes. He introduced himself as Victor Langley, CEO of Steinberg Motors. "Mr. Carter," he said smoothly, voice dripping with false warmth. "I admire your tenacity, but some battles are better left unwaged." I met his gaze unflinchingly. "The future doesn't wait for permission." He smiled thinly. "We shall see." After he left, Lily squeezed my hand. "He's dangerous." "I know," I replied, "but so am I." Back at Tesla's headquarters, the clock was ticking. The Model S had to launch soon, or it would all be for nothing. And somewhere in the shadows, the missing pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, secrets that would shake everything we believed about loyalty, power, and the price of ambition. The night was far from over. The cold bite of early morning air hit me as I stepped out of the sleek Tesla Model S prototype, its glossy black finish still gleaming under the warehouse lights. The city was just waking up, but inside me a storm was raging. Months of setbacks, betrayals, and battles had led to this moment, the first public test drive of the car that could change everything. Sarah was there, her fiery red hair pulled into a loose bun, wearing a fitted leather jacket over a dark green sweater, her eyes sharp and unwavering. "Ready to make history?" she asked, a wry smile tugging at the corner of her lips. I nodded, heart pounding. More than ever. The test track stretched out before us, a ribbon of asphalt winding through the outskirts of Fremont. Reporters, investors, and engineers gathered behind the fences, their faces a mix of excitement and skepticism. Cameras clicked, phones recorded, and the weight of expectation pressed down like a physical force. I slipped behind the wheel, the cabin cool and minimalist, every control designed with precision and purpose. The hum of the electric motor was almost silent, but beneath it lay a power that promised speed and grace. As I pressed the accelerator, the car surged forward, smooth and responsive. Around the bends, the Model S hugged the curves like a predator stalking its prey. I felt a surge of elation. This was more than a car, it was a declaration. The crowd erupted in applause as I brought the car to a stop, stepping out to face the sea of faces, cameras flashing like lightning. Emma joined me, her eyes bright with pride beneath her chic navy blazer and crisp white shirt. But just as the celebration began, my phone buzzed, a text from Mason. "We found Daniel." My heart skipped a beat. Minutes later, Mason appeared, breathless, with news that chilled me to the core. Daniel had been found, alive but trapped in a remote location outside the city, held hostage by Steinberg operatives desperate to silence him. Without hesitation, I gathered a small team, Sarah, Marcus, Mason, and we raced against time. The location was an abandoned warehouse on the edge of the industrial district, shadows stretching long in the fading light. The air was thick with tension and the scent of rust and decay. Inside, Daniel sat shackled, exhaustion etched into his face but eyes burning with determination. "You came," he whispered. "We're getting you out," I promised. But as we prepared to leave, footsteps echoed, reinforcements closing in. A fierce firefight erupted, bullets ricocheting off metal walls. Sarah moved with lethal grace, taking down attackers with precision. Marcus hacked security doors to slow the enemy's advance. Mason covered our retreat, his calm under fire a steady beacon. We escaped by the skin of our teeth, the night swallowing us as sirens wailed in the distance. Back at Tesla, Daniel's revelations unraveled the full extent of Steinberg's conspiracy, plans to launch a hostile takeover, sabotage supply chains, and even manipulate regulators to crush Tesla's rise. The truth was staggering, but it strengthened our resolve. Days later, at a packed press conference, I stood before the world and laid bare the fight we'd endured. "This is not just about cars or technology," I declared, voice steady and passionate. "It's about innovation, resilience, and the belief that we can build a better future." The crowd erupted in applause, the tide turning. Tesla's shares soared, partnerships blossomed, and the Model S became a symbol of hope. But as victory seemed within reach, a final message arrived, a cryptic note left in my office, written in unfamiliar handwriting. "The stars you chase are closer than you think, but beware, the shadows follow." I stared at the words, a chill crawling down my spine. The battle for Earth was won, but the war for the stars was only beginning. And somewhere, deep in the cosmos, a new challenge awaited, one that would test everything I believed about humanity, ambition, and destiny. The cryptic note lay on my desk like a riddle wrapped in shadows, its message haunting me well into the early hours. I traced the delicate script with a finger, feeling the weight of its warning settle deep in my bones. "The stars you chase are closer than you think, but beware, the shadows follow." What did it mean? Who had sent it? And what shadows were lurking just beyond the light of my dreams? The day dawned gray and heavy over Fremont, the sky a dull canvas that mirrored the turmoil inside me. As I stepped outside Tesla's headquarters, the hum of the city felt distant, the world narrowed down to the pressing questions swirling in my mind. Lily joined me, her presence steady as ever. She wore a sleek sapphire blue dress that caught the light with every movement, a subtle elegance that contrasted with the storm brewing in my heart. "You look haunted," she said softly. "I feel it," I admitted. "We fought so hard for this, Tesla, SpaceX, SolarBright, but the note, it's a reminder there's more out there, more we don't understand." She smiled gently, fingers lacing with mine. "Whatever comes, you won't face it alone." Just then, Mason appeared, his usual calm replaced by urgency. "Alex, we intercepted a transmission. It's encrypted, but preliminary scans suggest it's coming from beyond Earth, possibly from Mars." I blinked, disbelief warring with hope. "Mars? Are you saying that someone or something is reaching out? Mason confirmed. The room seemed to tilt, the future unfolding faster than I'd ever imagined. Months of battles on Earth had prepared me for this moment, the leap from terrestrial struggles to cosmic mysteries. That night, beneath a sky glittering with stars, I stood on the rooftop of Tesla's factory, the cool breeze tugging at my jacket. Around me, the city buzzed with life, oblivious to the message from the void. My mind raced. Was this the dawn of a new chapter for humanity? A call to explore, to connect, to transcend? But the shadows lingered. The threats, the conspiracies, the unknown forces watching from the darkness. Lily stepped beside me, her voice a steady beacon. Whatever the stars hold, we'll face it together. I nodded, the fire of determination reigniting within. The journey ahead was uncertain, perilous, and unlike anything we'd faced before. Yet, as I gazed upward, I knew one truth remained unshaken. The future belongs to those brave enough to chase the impossible. And so, with the night sky stretching endlessly above, I took the first step toward the greatest adventure of all, beyond Earth, beyond fear, into the vast unknown. The story was far from over. It was only just beginning.